Okay, so the goal of this is just kind of a little crash course in demand and supply with a couple of examples. So demand is focused on the consumer side of the market. Meaning that the only things that can shift our demand curve are things that influence our consumers. And our consumers don't really care about the costs of production. So anything that's affecting the cost of production won't affect our demand side of the market. And consumers are our individual buyers of whatever it is we're looking at. Our law of demand states that as price increases, quantity demanded will decrease. Meaning that we have a demand curve with a negative slope. When we're drawing our demand curves within this class, we don't really have a specific number that we're looking at. So we don't necessarily know that it's going to start at, say, 10 or 15 or anything like that. We just know that we're going to have price on our y-axis, quantity on our x-axis, and it's going to be downward sloping. If it shifts to the left, so D to D2 is a decrease in demand. If it shifts to the right, from D to D3, it's an increase in demand. And then if we move along the curve from A to B, it's a change in quantity demanded. The only thing that can cause a change in quantity demanded is a change in the price of the own good. So, what can cause changes in demand? First would be population. If there's more people that are needing a product, demand will increase. If there's less people needing a product, demand will decrease. Second is income. And for income, there's two types of goods. There are normal goods, which are goods that we want to buy, which are as income increases. Demand increases. And as income decreases, demand decreases. And these are goods that we willingly spend money on. Inferior goods go the other direction. As income increases, demand decreases. And as income decreases, demand increases. And inferior goods are goods that we buy kind of out of necessity, that we really just have no other option because it's all we can afford. So I like to think of it as if you were to get a raise, the good that you would go buy is a normal good. If you were to get fired in your next trip to the grocery store, the goods that you're now buying because you don't have as much income are going to be your inferior goods. Third, we have prices of related goods. And for related goods, we have complements, which are goods we need to use together. And for complements, as the price of one goes up, demand for the other goes down. And as the price of the other goes down, or as the price of one goes down, demand for the other goes up. And these are products like chips and salsa. You need both, tea and sugar, coffee and creamer. The other option for related goods is substitutes. You only need one. So if one price goes up, demand for the other goes up. We'll just choose the cheaper object. If one of the prices goes down, demand for the other goes down. We'll choose the cheaper product. Then we have number 4, which is expected future prices. If price tomorrow is expected to be higher, buy today. If price tomorrow is going to be lower, buy then. And again, when we're looking at our demand curve, we're saying that an increase in demand is D to D2. And a decrease in demand is shifting in with D to D3. So we can do the same thing for supply. For supply, we care about the producer or the firm side. And they care about maximizing profit. The law of supply states that as price increases, quantity supplied will also increase. Meaning that we have an upward sloping supply curve. We still have price on our y-axis and quantity on our x-axis. If we shift to the left, it's a decrease in supply. If we shift to the right, it's an increase in supply. And if we move along the curve, It's a change in quantity supplied. So just like we did for demand, we can look at what causes shifts in our supply curve. First is number of producers or number of sellers. More producers, supply increases. Less sellers, less producers, supply decreases. Second is price of inputs. If it's cheaper, inputs, it means it's cheaper to produce, so supply will increase. More expensive inputs, means it's more expensive to produce. Supply will decrease. Then we have technology. How easy is it to produce? Or how efficient are we at producing? If it's easier or better, supply will increase. If it's harder or more difficult, supply will decrease. And there's others if you look at the notes, but these are the big three for supply. So then we're going to look at a couple of examples with our equilibrium. So let's say that we're looking at the market for pizza. And we're going to say that the CDC says pizza is good for you. And then we're just trying to see what happens. So if the CDC says pizza is good for you, that's going to be a change in demand because that's affecting our consumers. If it's good for you, we're going to see an increase in demand because more people are going to want pizza. So if we graph it, price, quantity, upward sloping supply, downward sloping demand, increase in demand. We have to have our original point that we're comparing to. So this is P star, this is Q star. This is our new equilibrium point. We see that price increased and quantity increased. And this is at the new equilibrium. So we can look at another example. Let's say we're looking at the market for iPads. And let's say the cost of glass increases. And we're trying to determine what happens. If the cost of glass increases, glass is an input for iPads. So it's affecting supply. Since glass prices increased, that means that it's more expensive to produce. So supply will decrease. So we're going to sketch the same graph again. Price, quantity, supply, demand, original point, original equilibrium point, and we see that price increased and quantity decreased. And again, that's at our new equilibrium point. So as another example, we could be looking at the market for Pepsi. What if the price of Coke which is a substitute, increases? The price of Coke, a substitute, would be affecting demand because that affects our consumers. If the price of Coke increases, that means that more people will buy Pepsi because they're just going to choose the cheaper product. So demand for Pepsi increases. Same graph, price, quantity, supply, demand, P star, Q star, new demand curve, and we see that at equilibrium, price increased and quantity increased. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have other questions.